If you're a former member of a cult or a former New Ager, then chances are you've spent some amount of time feeling like you need to raise the world's consciousness or wake people up. It's a hard one to shake, that, and it hangs around. But in this video, I'm going to tell you why you can probably safely stop trying to help people all the time, and why it might actually be better for everyone if you did. As a former member of an online New Age cult, I spent years feeling like I knew something that others didn't, like I had some secret key to unlocking humanity's potential if only they would just listen to me. If you're a former New Ager or a former member of any kind of cult, then chances are you know exactly what I'm talking about. Anything that proclaims to have some kind of truth runs the risk of inducing worrying levels of zealousness in its exponents. And when it comes to cults, that's ramped up to the nth degree. It can get a little bit intense. When I was in a cult, I would try to turn the problems of the people around me into a teachable moment. I'm not going to say I was grandiose or arrogant, but if someone's going through a tough breakup, then I would waste no time at all getting to how they attracted that relationship or whatever into their life. And if someone's frustrated or discontent in some way, then I'd be straight in there, looking for the root cause of their resistance. If that sounds like you once upon a time, then hit the like button and let me know I'm not alone, and everyone else know they're not alone too. For someone who believed themselves to be an empath, I was running low on the empathy. Let's skip the there part and we'll get to the bit where I tell you about how everything is energy and how you can have everything you want. You just need to align with your higher self, and everything you could ever desire is already yours. You just need to match up with it. As you can imagine, this always went well, and every time I gave this kind of advice, people took it because it was very reasonable, sound advice, and they went ahead and did what I said, and everything worked out for the best. You know what usually happened when I tried to teach people about life? I ranted on for longer than is socially comfortable. Their eyes glazed over. They gave me a grunt occasionally, which is more akin to a verbal nod that's intended to hasten the end of the conversation rather than any actual agreement with anything that I'm saying. And I wish I could say that this stopped when I left the cult behind, or when I left the New Age and spirituality in general behind, but it didn't. Just like getting into the New Age is a slow process, akin to going around a bunch of medieval villages and collecting remedies from witch doctors, getting out of the New Age is like turning out your medicine cabinet and then finding that you've got a chest full of a few hundred elixirs under your bed that are starting to go off now and starting to smell. So yeah, it didn't stop. I'd stopped thinking that the leader was the best thing since sliced bread, and I stopped using the law of attraction to try and get ahead in life. Being a know-it-all might subside when you lose faith in a leader or you start to see through a flimsy ideology, but learning to stop being a fixer, not so easy. It can go unnoticed for years, and it can creep up into your relationships. It's worth mentioning that for most people, it's probably coming from a good place to try and do this. Like, if you think you've got the answer and you think you can help someone, then you're going to want to help. You're going to want to share that. And I guess that's fair enough. Trouble is, if you're knowingly or unknowingly taking a person's struggle as an opportunity to proselytize, then you can have all the good intentions in the world, but the chances of what you're saying getting through to them is pretty close to zero. And that just reduces more if you have different worldviews. Even if I was 100% right about what I was saying, people don't learn when they're stressed. And figuring out a problem and finding a solution takes time. It's a process, and most people have their own ways of muddling things out. So even if I was right, the low chances of someone actually listening to me makes it hardly worth bothering. I can't tell you how many times as a New Ager or a cult member I heard maybe 5 minutes max of a person's problem and then just ranted on about what I thought the solution was. And I've done it 100 times too. And honestly, I still do it all the time now. I'm trying my best. But, you know, despite the pop psychology notion that realizing you have a problem is enough to solve the problem, I think we can all attest to that not being true. By the way, the video is not over yet, but if you want more videos on critical thinking and destructive cults and life after the New Age, then why not subscribe to the channel and hit the bell? What I notice when I look back is that there's this naiveness in this assumption that I knew a person better than they knew themselves. And there's this arrogance almost in this assertion that I understood life better than them. And in trying to help, in all my earnestness, I might have just been doing more harm than good. Even today, when I catch myself with the earnest but misplaced urge to fix, I know it's coming from a good place, but I think there's a big difference between wanting to help and then pushing your ideas, beliefs, solutions onto a person and listening to them and being attentive enough to understand what they need. Better to listen and support them and ask what they need. I think that's especially the case if you're talking to a current member of the cult that you used to belong to, or any member of a cult. And if you are talking to someone who's finding it hard to think critically and see through damaging ideas, then I have to reiterate Hassan's advice about being as non-threatening as possible. I think that's really important. I think if you really want to help someone, you need to get a grasp on what they need. And 9 times out of 10, a person knows what they need better than you do, even if they haven't fully got to grips with it yet, even if they haven't found the words to communicate what's going on for them yet. I'm fairly certain that I've never learned what a person needs by listening to 5 minutes, give or take, of what's actually going on for them and then just ranting at them, flat for 30 minutes, even an hour. By trying to help people in a way that isn't responding to their expressed needs, you might have actually been doing them a disservice. Not only because you run the risk of them actually taking your advice, which is especially problematic if you're just reciting the misleading or facile works of the average New Age guru, but by trying to get them to do things your way, you're robbing them of the opportunity to do things their own way. In my experience, 9 times out of 10, the people that I tried to help ignored my advice, muddled things out on their own, and things turned out absolutely fine, if not better than that they would have done if they'd taken my, in hindsight, decidedly terrible advice. What I've learned is people will ask for your opinions or your advice if they feel like they need it, if they feel like you can actually help. And that happens a lot less often than you might expect. What people usually need is someone to listen to them, someone to understand what they're going through. And if you're not sure, you could just ask something like, do you need something specifically from me, or do you just need me to listen right now? It's a good question, that. So if you're anything like me and you've struggled to let go of that tendency to fix people or to solve people's problems for them, then you might find that all you actually need to do is be kind and ask good questions. I'm Andy Fellows, and I'll see you in the next one.